My name is Gus, Dan's friend since August 1970 and colleague at the Lehigh University Enterprise Systems Center, ESC. Dan played a dominant role in achieving the center's mission of providing experiential learning and leadership development opportunities to our students through real projects. Dan had a lifelong passion for leadership development. He worked diligently on his own skills, then passed them on generously to our students. He mentored every student with conviction, personal stories, and great humor.
Well, my name is Emery Zimmers. I'm director of the Enterprise Systems Center and professor of Industrial and Systems Engineering here at Lehigh University. I feel grateful and privileged to have known and worked with Dan here at the center. Dan was a regular speaker at our leadership development course, which I'm responsible for, and also participated in evening sessions of the Lehigh chapter of the National Society of Leadership and Success. In addition, he mentored more than 100 of our industry projects. We estimate that this impacted the lives of more than 1,000 Lehigh students. We will continue to use the video of Dan's last lecture, which you're about to see, to impact the lives of many more students. During the lecture, Dan was unable to continue standing for the full time, but he courageously continued, seated, smiling, and as enthusiastic as ever.
If you would like to honor and support Dan's leadership legacy, contributions may be made to the Lehigh University Academic Leadership Initiative at ESC in Dan's name. Instructions to the link are posted below and again at the end of Dan's last lecture.
You're in a leadership course, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about my experiences with regards to leadership, which I guess theoretically spanned probably about 50 years from the time I was in high school and college through to the business world, etc. So my plan here today, frankly, I'll let you know in advance, is to leave you with something that I've learned over the years that you can take with you. So I'm not just going to be speaking to you and let you leave. I'm going to leave something with you, okay? Now, each of you probably know some of these authors. I saw the Maxwell book on someone's desk, and I know you're reading it. Have anybody heard of any of these others? Covey, Venice, Senghi, Sharon? Anybody hear of them? Okay, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Successful People. I would also recommend to you Ram Charan. He wrote a book which I think is particularly relevant for folks that are in college or new into jobs, and it's called Leaders at Every Level. And so a lot of folks think that when guys like me are coming up here to tell you about leadership, is you got to wait to use all that stuff till you're the president of the company. Well, Ram Charan says, no, that's not true. There's leaders at every level. And if you practice that leadership, then maybe someday you will be the president. Now, one thing that I knew is from reading all these books and going to lectures and things of that sort, I questioned the sustainability, what I'll call it. And by sustainability, I knew that I went to this wonderful lecture by Ram Charan, and 6 months later I was still doing the same things. So I said to myself, it's not sticking. And so at the end of the day, what I'd like to do today is a couple things, and I'll call this my agenda. I'd like to let you know a little bit about me and my background. I'd like to talk to you about my views of leadership, and then I'd like to consider a development and measurement tool for your leadership sustainability. And that's the takeaway, and that's something that you can take with you. And at the end, we're going to have some fun. We'll do 2 case studies. They're real. They're situations that I faced in my career, which I think tested my leadership. And so I'm going to be dividing you into groups and asking you specifically, what would you do? And then at the end, I'll tell you what I did. We can make a comparison. In terms of my background, I'm a Pittsburgher. Anybody from Pittsburgh? Anybody like the Steelers? Thank you. Okay, a good game the other night, huh? I'm a Pittsburgher. I came up here to Lehigh in the early 70s. I graduated in finance. I should tell you, I started in mechanical engineering for about a year and a half. Didn't like it. I think it's a must that you enjoy what you're studying, and I was studying but not enjoying. So I transferred to finance, and actually I was studying and enjoying. I won the Wall Street Journal Award for finance in 1974. I played football and I made the All-American team here at Lehigh. I got a job and moved out to Ohio and was working out there, and went and got an MBA at Ohio State University, and ultimately spent 30 years in a corporate career from about 1974 to about 2004. The one thing is, I guess I call myself the dinosaur because I'm one of those guys that joined a company directly out of Lehigh, interviewed on campus, joined the company, and stayed for 30 years. But the reason why is because they never gave me a reason to leave. Over the 30 years, I guess I'll say, until I became president, which was at age 40 at about 18 years, in the 18 years I had about 8 promotions. So they never gave me time to get discontent. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, after 18 years with the company, I became president of the company. One thing I did learn was a lot of leadership skills from a company that I worked for, and I'll be talking about this. We worked under Procter & Gamble for about 10 years. And I learned substantial information from Procter & Gamble. And from that leadership, my team and I can tell you that we're very, very proud to have delivered over the 10-year term. My term was about 10 years, about a 725% increase in profit. So that's over 7 times profitability in about 10 years. I made a career change at 50 as a result of a change of control. A large company, Tyco International, who you may have heard of, bought our company. They tossed out all the senior executives, and so I moved to Palm Beach, Florida. I've been working part-time since on boards with the Enterprise Systems Center here at Lehigh and with Dr. Zimmers. I've also been doing independent consulting. And at the end of the day, my wife would hope that I told you that I'm a good husband and father. I have a son and a new 2-year-old grandson. So, I mean, the issue, I guess, is this. You have to look over, my track record and say, do you think Dan's a leader? How many would you raise your hand and say that I'm a leader? Okay? I hope I am, but what I want to ask you is this. How would you know? Have any of you worked with me in corporate world? Have any of you worked with me on 254 projects? I don't see anybody maybe that I have. So this is the first time you've ever laid a glimpse on me, and what you did is you placed a bunch of facts with regards to my background as to whether I was a leader. Now I'm proud of a lot of those facts, but the fact of the matter is, I guess as they say, a couple things that I would tell you. Number one, success does not always equal good leadership. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does not. Good management, and management is different than leadership, and I'll tell you how in a minute. Management, being a good manager does not always mean that you're a good leader. Leadership is about demonstrated behaviors. And that's what I'm talking about, is you folks knowing me. You folks working with me. You folks working underneath me and a team. That's where you'll learn whether I'm a good leader. And so I would tell you this, the leadership behaviors that we're talking about here, and I'll be naming them shortly, the leadership behaviors usually do drive success. And I think a lot of my success was the result of the behaviors that I'm going to give you today. So what I'd like to do next is I'd like to give you a little bit about, okay, how did I get from there to here? Especially when I was back at your age. The one thing I guess which was interesting, I talked with you about a career where I had about 8 promotions in 10 years. What I've shown on this particular slide are the individual positions that I had and who I reported to. So for example, I got hired out of Lehigh Into customer service, I actually answered the telephone. Hello, Dan Mulholland, how may I help you? Oh yes, we have stock of that item. Shall we ship immediately? All right, started at customer service, went to sales rep, went to manager in marketing information systems, went to operations and planning and manufacturing, went to administration, business directors, marketing, vice president of marketing, and president. Now, just a little test for you. Is there anything, as you look, particularly at my positions and the direct supervisor's position, is there anything that's a little maybe odd that you see? It's a tough one. You'd be the first group to get it though. You got a shot?
You were under vice president of sales and marketing, and then you're vice president of marketing, not sales and marketing. Did they split the position maybe?
Not really.
Just guess.
Let me tell you, well, at least you took a shot. Nice. I never took my boss's job. That's what generally happens in companies. You work, you're a sales rep. What's your next job? Regional sales manager. And the fact of the matter is, as you see my boss, well, I did take my boss's job one time. And you can see that when I was vice president of marketing, I reported to the president. I took his job. So that one down here, at the bottom, right here, is the only time that there's ever a matchup. And the fact of the matter is, I think there's a little bit of a learning there that I'll leave with you. There's the matchup. And essentially, I made all diagonal moves. Those diagonal moves generally were very purposeful, because I said to myself, you know what? I'd like to be president of this company. It's a mid-sized company today. It's about $500 million in sales, so it's a medium-sized company. And I said, I think I could be the president of this company. I walked out of Lehigh and said, what are your goals? I'd like to be president. Okay, well, how can I be president? Well, why don't I try to play every position? And so I did. And I think the lessons here are these. Multifunctional experience, you'll see me in customer service, sales, information systems, manufacturing, administration, marketing, etc. Multifunctional experience can be very valuable, because at the end of the day, actually it seemed quite obvious who the next president would be if the next president was selected inside. And the next president would be me. I've done just about all of it. It also, I think, is a lesson in that you shouldn't be afraid to test untested or unpopular waters. For example, when I was in sales, everybody said you should be a regional sales manager. I was offered a regional sales manager's job. I denied it. Very soon thereafter, I was offered a job in information systems. And all the guys in sales said to me, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "No, I'd like to learn about the systems within this company. Someday it might come in handy." And it did. The other thing that I would tell you that I think very rewarding that I did is I found a mentor. I found somebody. I was 22 years old. I didn't find a guy that was an old fart like myself, 64 years old. I found somebody that was about 35 years old, now in a director's role or a VP role. And I asked them, for their advice and assistance when I was young. And I think that I call it a guiding light or a guardian angel. I think they're very, very good to attach to some people who can help you in business. By the way, for those that are taking notes, thank you, but this is going to be on the web, on the site, am I correct?
It'll be on a course site, yes.
It'll be on the course site, so it might save you a little bit of time. So, again, I guess the bottom line is that multifunctional experience that I got was very valuable to me because it helped me to learn the company. When I went, when I became president, I knew about manufacturing, I knew about sales, I knew about, pretty much everything. And I had a finance degree and I never worked in finance. So, let's spend a little bit of time, perhaps half an hour or so, and I'm going to talk with you about leadership and kind of my learnings. And the first thing that I'd like to ask you about is management versus leadership. How many of you think there's a substantial difference between the two? How many of you do think there are not? Okay, no hands. I think right answer. It's an opinion. My opinion is there is a substantial difference. A couple reasons why I believe that include, number one, I think you manage projects. Have a project, you manage it, you put it into order, you do the things in sequence, you do them on time and on budget. That's a good manager. Does not necessarily mean that that person is a good leader. And the reason is because I think you lead people. To that end, I had a definition one time that I made up, I guess it was at this point maybe 30 years ago. And I used to tell people this. I used to say, what do you think is the difference between managing and leading? And I would essentially tell them this and still tell them this today. Managing is getting people to do what you want. Leadership is getting people to want what you want. And there's a terribly large difference between the two. I could have all of you folks work for me on a project and I could say, here's what I want you to do, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and you guys do this, and you do this. And I want to be exactly 100% correct with regards to everything I tell you to do and in what time and everything else. But you're not with me. Your heart's not with me. Now, maybe at the end of the day, what I want is an outcome. I want improved productivity or whatever it might be with regards to a project's outcome. What I want you to do is want improved productivity. And so I think the big difference, and that's why I highlighted these words. Managing is getting people to do what you want, do this, do this, do this, do this. Leading is getting people to want what you want. I want what you want. I want to be on your team. I want to be with you. You'll see that a lot in business. You'll see that a lot in athletics and things of that sort. What I like to do is say, as an example, I think it's a lot like being the Pied Piper, having people want to follow, want to be part of your group. Does that say Eisenhower? Good, just checking. My wife and I went to New Orleans. How many of you ever been to New Orleans? Go to New Orleans. It's a great town, great food, but one of the things they have is they have the best World War II museum in the United States. And so my wife stumbled upon it. We heard that there was a World War II museum in New Orleans. We're going to New Orleans. It's about saxophones. It's not about World War II. It was fantastic. And when I was in there, they had all these murals and displays and things of that sort. And I saw a quotation that was made, a statement that was made by British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery about Eisenhower. Anybody know Eisenhower? Dwight Eisenhower? Raise hands, I gotta know how many. Okay. President of the United States, 1952 to 1960, just before Kennedy. Everybody knows John Kennedy. He was president, but before that, he was a military commander, and in fact, he was in charge of the World War II effort in in Europe, including D-Day. In the D-Day invasion, it was a coordinated effort with the English. And the fellow who was responsible on the English side was British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery. And so Eisenhower said, I want to do it this way. And Montgomery said, I want to do it this way. And it's well known for any of you that might ever read the history books that Montgomery and Eisenhower clashed. But one thing Montgomery did is he admired Eisenhower in one way, and it was through this quote. He said, Eisenhower has the power of drawing the hearts of men towards him. He merely has to smile at you and you trust him at once. And that's what we're seeking here in terms of leadership, is people that can be trusted, people that are admired, and people that you want to be with. So the question is, why do we need leaders in the first place? Why can't we all just be a team? And I think there's a number of reasons and a number of examples why not. The first is, I think, fairly simple. People look for leadership for security and safety. And I've named here a few. In the military, certainly, they're looking for strong leadership because it may save their lives at the end of the day, and that's important to all. In the business world, you want good leadership, particularly directly above you, because it'll keep your job. It'll provide a career for you if you latch on to the right people. So leadership is substantial in business. And in religious overtones, not to name any particular position, but I guess I'm giving away early Catholicism and parochial schools. Get to heaven. And I used to say, we all of you to go to heaven. Now, wherever you want to go, that's okay with me. But the fact of the matter is, I'm looking for that security maybe in religion to provide me what I want for, quote, eternity. Leadership is also about belonging and inclusion. I've talked about Eisenhower, I've talked about the Pied Piper. How many instances do you find even in your own life where you were within some group and you want to be on that team? The people and the leader of that team you admire so much that you say, I want to be part of that. And I want to be part ultimately of the success because I want what you want. And that's exactly what we're looking for in terms of leadership. Leadership, I think, is about trust and respect of people, of the leaders. I wrote a little phrase here that I think you've all heard, like, I'd run through a wall for him, or I'd run through a wall for her. And that's really the essence of leadership. Okay? The other thing that I would leave you with is that leadership is event and crisis driven. And to that end, I'll name you a couple examples. Abraham Lincoln, Battle of Gettysburg. I mean, everybody had to memorize the speech. But the fact of the matter is he showed great leadership during that crisis and event. Dwight Eisenhower, who I have mentioned, showed great leadership in D-Day, and it changed the whole perspective of World War II. Norman Schwarzkopf was the general and responsible for the Persian Gulf War, the short Persian Gulf War about 1992, called Desert Storm. And Rudy Giuliani stood tall at 9/11 after the World Trade Centers collapsed. However, for those of you who may recall, back about 2004, I think it was, George Bush and Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. He was lambasted by the media. Now, the fact of the matter is, it may have been just a media event. The fact of the matter is, he was lambasted because they felt he didn't show adequate leadership in that particular crisis. So the fact of the matter is, while leadership can be event and crisis driven, it can go both ways. You can show and prove out very, very strong leadership during a crisis. You can also blow it. Okay, and at least by the media's perception, George Bush had blown it. Okay? The other thing I guess I'd leave you with is leadership is not a soft word. I think personally leadership is about winning. Whether or not it's in business or whether or not it's on the football field, you're out there to win. And so the fact of the matter is, I mean, think about it, we don't worship losers. How many people are losers and they write the books about them? None. Results count. Business particularly, and you guys are all directed through your education to the business world one way or the other, likely. It's all about competition. I used to tell people in my company, you can't see them, but they're out there and they're called your competition. You know what they want? Your job. And I used to tell that to folks because it's invisible competition. It's not somebody standing out in front of you with boxing gloves, but it's an invisible hand with boxing gloves saying, I'm going to take your job. And it happens every day. And proof of that is that 1/2 of the Fortune 500 companies from just about 20 years ago no longer are Fortune 500s. So you see companies rise up based upon leadership and employee participation. You see companies on the decline as well. There's an old expression, leaders are born, not made. He or she's a natural leader. I've heard it my whole life. I guess I'm here to tell you, I don't believe it. I think to a large degree leaders can be made. I think it's one of the reasons why you folks are here in this class. Okay, now, let me tell you about some of the top corporate leaders in the history of business. Sam Walton. You guys know Sam Walton? Take a guess. Walmart. Walmart. He started Walmart, and now it's a 200 billion or 400 billion some company, okay? Biggest, I think, in the United States. I will tell you one thing. I learned something from the subsequent CEO of Walmart one time at a business event when he was talking about the wisdom and leadership of Sam Walton. And frankly, when Sam Walton was interviewing for the position, he was having a hard time getting to, maybe it was Bentonville, Arkansas, where the company is located, and he might have been in Texas, something like that, it doesn't matter. But what he said to the fellow was, I'd really like to come to meet you, but can you meet me halfway? And I thought it was brilliant. What I will tell you is in my business career, I've used that statement hundreds of times. Can you meet me halfway on that? As opposed to, no, I want it this way. No, I want it this way. No, I don't accept what you say. Hundreds of times I said, can you meet me halfway on this one? And I gained that from Sam Walton. Andy Grove, how many know Andy Grove? How many have a computer in front of them today? A couple of you, I see. How many of you have Intel chips in there? Andy Grove, Chairman, CEO of Intel. Bill Gates, I think everybody knows Bill Gates. Microsoft, Jack Welch. Anybody not know Jack Welch? We'll do it that way. Jack Welch, okay, there's an honest soul. Jack Welch is an iconic chairman and CEO of General Electric. He grew General Electric up over the course of about 20 to 25 years to what it is today. How about this? Lehigh Iacocca. Anybody challenged on that one? Anybody not know Lehigh Iacocca? Good, because he's a Lehigh graduate and industrial engineer. Okay, ran Ford Motor Company, ran Chrysler. Steve Jobs, no more to be said. More current era. So you ask yourself, all right, there's a bunch of guys that are probably a group, half a dozen or more, of the most successful executives of all time. Were they born or made? Okay, let's take a look. Each of them are from different backgrounds. Family backgrounds, rich or poor. Ethnic backgrounds, Lehigh Iacocca, Italian neighborhood over in Allentown. Education, some finished school, Bill Gates didn't. Quit Harvard. Okay? Different types of careers, different types of industries. Very much different generations between, the Steve Jobs of the world and the Sam Waltons. Very different skill sets that they brought to the party. But there was, in my belief, one thing that they shared in common, and that's some behaviors. They behaved the same way towards their employees, towards their constituencies, communities. You guys are supposed to help me out. Mike, thank you for helping me out. Okay? So, to that end, what I would say is I think that a lot in terms of born or made is made. You can make yourself. So, the fact of the matter is, good, still good. When I was in Lehigh, I didn't know those behaviors, so I was sitting in the same desks as you were and said, I have no clue that they even exist. I thought being a good leader meant that they liked you, and it's not. So what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit today about my journey. My lessons, as I call it, were a bit on the fly. On a football field, I tried to be a leader. Maybe that was a little bit of rah-rah. Maybe it was trying to get my teammates picked up, for a game. But there was no leadership class, there was no leadership society, there was no ILR, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There was nothing academically dealing with leadership at all. So I had in my business world what I would call lingering questions for about the first 10 years. Am I doing the right things? Am I managing well? Am I a good leader? How would I know? Do they like me? Can I improve as a leader? How can I do that? How would I accomplish that? There was a lot of questions that I had. And I tried my best for over 10 years, even when I got up to the executive ranks and director. In 1985, my company was purchased by Procter & Gamble. At that time, I learned many perspectives from what I learned at Procter & Gamble about what leadership was about, a better understanding about what I had to do, and I guess what I would call my aha moment. All right, now I'm going to ask you for some indulgence. I'm going to move this over. I'm going to move a chair up here. The truth of the matter is I'm getting very tired because I finished chemotherapy. I have cancer, and I finished chemotherapy yesterday, and I'm getting tired. So if you'll give me a chance, I'm just going to relax a little bit. I got to sit down, okay? Let's take a vote on that. You gonna give me that one? Thank you very much. Okay, I feel good, but I'm gonna feel better if I sit down here for a bit. I'll be just as good, I promise, okay? All right, so what I learned from all this is great. What, accept. Thank you, thank you. I'm being fetched, great. What I learned at Procter & Gamble was the behaviors. Remember that word that I had used earlier, sustainability? I learned how to sustain it. And that's what I'm going to show you guys today. So, let me share some of those behaviors with you. And I'm going to show you what I'll consider to be the development and management tool. Overall, there's 3 overarching themes that Procter & Gamble taught with regards to leadership. And I call them, and have forever, Emery knows I preach this all the time, the 3 E's. The first is envision, the second is energize, and the third is enable. Underneath each of these themes comes, thank you, there's a test. Underneath each one of these themes are behaviors. Actually, there's 4 behaviors that fall underneath envision. There's 4 behaviors that fall underneath energize, and there's 10 behaviors that fall underneath enable. I'm going to walk through each of these. You do not have to take notes. Remember, it's going to be on your website. You can copy it. I, for one, would tell you that I'm going to give you, and it's in here, I'm going to give you one sheet on all the E's and all the behaviors. I would print that sheet, and I would keep it until you're 64 years old, because I still have mine today. All right? So the first E is called envision. And envision essentially says, create the future, gain enrollment and commitment of your employees. Okay? So what that means is drawing them in. Remember the Pied Piper. How do I do the Pied Piper? How do I get them to want what you want? Well, I don't get them. How do you get them to want what you want? First, create a picture of the future and keep it alive. Tell them what you want. Frame it in the way of a picture. This is, what did Moses say? I'm going to take you to the promised land. And he made people envision what the promised land was all about, at least for Catholics in the group. Okay, but you know what I'm talking about. He drew a picture in the minds of the people that were following him about where they were going. Good leaders in businesses do the same. Secondly, leaders focus on possibilities, not limitations. I guess I'll call that glass half empty, glass half full. Leaders' glass is always half full. Leaders always striving to focus on what's possible, how can we do it, not, oh my God, this is hard. And they don't let their people see that at all. Their people know that they're hard chargers. Number 3.
One more.
Keep me good. Number 3 is to focus the organization on key objectives and strategies. Key word here, and it's underlined, is focused. In corporations, you all are going to learn this. There's 10,000 things to do. You know how many are important? Really, really important? 100. And so what leaders identify is what are the vitally important things to be done to succeed, and then get the organization to focus on them. And lastly, number 4 under envision is the leader personally communicates the vision and what that leader stands for in both words and actions. And I call that management by walking around. Many of you have heard that. When I was CEO of my company, I was always walking around from department to department, going down the plant, talking to people in manufacturing. How's it going? Are you getting that new chemical that we're making for Intel for those chips? Are we getting it right? You guys got it? Great, okay. And talking and personally communicating what you're after on a regular basis is vitally important. The leader just doesn't sit behind a closed door. Okay, so get out there. The second E is for energize. And energize means now inspiring your people. They get it. They get the vision. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to inspire them to deliver it. And there's 4 things in terms of behaviors that you can do to accomplish that. Number 1 is you can be very specific about goals, responsibilities, and standards, I guess. You set goals for people. You tell people where you want them to be and by when, what you want them to accomplish and by what time date. You set standards that are high. They set standards high, I know, but maybe from my athletic experience and watching my Pittsburgh Steelers. Football coaches try to set high standards for their players. It's sometimes hard to do. And they establish roles and responsibilities. They tell people specifically, you can do this. I give you the authority to do this, and they're giving people authority. So when people know their boundaries, you know, what they're after, what the standards are, and the roles and responsibilities that they have, they can perform better. And they're inspired to do so because they're not timid with regards to acting. Leaders demonstrate a sense of urgency. And I always like to say, leaders walk fast. And it's interesting, if you see that in corporations, you'll see a leader walking down the hall. Boom, 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 boom. They're in a hurry to get somewhere. And you know why? They're in a hurry to get to their next engagement. Then they're in a hurry to get to their next employee. Then they're in a hurry to get to a meeting. They're always in a hurry because it's urgent. And I will tell you, a sense of urgency is important in business. Those that succeed earlier will succeed. You get left behind, I think they call it, what do they call it, roadkill. I think there's an old expression about, do you want to be something or roadkill? People who don't, and CEOs that don't have a sense of urgency, they're roadkill and their companies are roadkill too. You know what roadkill means? Good. Okay. All right, next. Does that say openly and honestly? Thank you. This is key because this deals with situations of trust. And it says openly and honestly communicate and encourage others to do the same. I had a statement in my company that was 99% correct and 1%, I guess, not correct. I used to tell folks, I'll let you know what I know when I know it. And 99% of the time I kept that promise. 1% of the time, I guess we'll call them Hillary's emails. I could not release that information because of the sensitivity, etc. But 99% of the time, people knew that if I knew something, I would share it with them. And the reason why I shared it with them is because they were part of the team. Let me give you an example. In 1998, our company was to be sold. I was responsible for selling the company. Many executives do not tell their employees when a company is going to be sold. They do it, you know, they drive to New York, they meet with bankers and prospective buyers in New York City, they hide it from their employees. And you know what I felt? I was involved in that one time. I was just a guy working in an office, and I saw these, as they call them, suits. I saw these suits walking back and forth at our plant, and I said to myself, we're getting sold. They never said a word to any of our employees as if they couldn't trust us, or maybe worse yet, as Jack Nicholson would say, you can't, or no, was that the other? That was Jack Nicholson, I think. You can't handle the truth. Anybody remember that movie? We can handle the truth. Not only can we not handle the truth, but we can help you to more successfully sell this company, because you're selling plant and equipment, but you know what you're really selling? You're really selling us. You're selling people. So I learned a lesson from that. That was back in the 80s. And when it became my time in the 90s, I told people, we are going to be sold. Here's what that process will entail. We've done it before. Here's what I need from you. I'll keep you updated and informed both by emails, maybe it was before emails, by mail, somehow or other, and I will keep you openly informed through regular meetings that I have with you, but you're part of this. And I want you to help us move us to a better place. By the way, what did I do? just gave them a little bit of a vision. Let's move us to a better place. You can attract a lousy owner, or you can attract a dynamite new owner that's going to value you. Well, we want to do that. So what I told them, let's make sure that we get to a better place. And the fact of the matter is, we did. It says, encourage others to do the same. I'm going to dwell on this one a little bit longer than the other. I have to tell you, in corporations, there's always, I guess I can use it, it's a hyperbole always, but I think I can use it. There's always a lot of internal conflict. Department A, sales doesn't get along with manufacturing. Distribution doesn't get along with manufacturing. You know what I mean? And they don't talk, they don't operate as a team. And I can't, as a football player, I can't imagine screaming at my guard. You know what I mean? And so I used to encourage people to both cross-functionally. I want and demand that sales talk to manufacturing. I know there are challenges between you two, but I want you to work it out. And I want you to ask the following question: would you meet me halfway? But I want an agreement between you two on how you can work together. And I force departments to do that. The other thing I did is, that's kind of a functional communication. I also tilted the scale and I did a different level communication. So for example, once a month I had lunch with employees, and I made sure that there were 5 people and myself, a half a dozen folks for lunch, and all of those 5 people were from different levels in the organization. Because I wanted to find out the truth. I used to ask them, what's going on? What do you think I should know that I don't, because nobody wants to tell me because I'm the president and you're afraid? All of a sudden they go, well, if you really want to know. And those were so valuable to me. It led to the point where I had a program one time with a group in our company that was called Opportunities for Improvement, OFIs we called them. And we asked everybody in the company, what suggestion could you give to improve a business process that we have? Because business is all just a process, right? So what I did, I had nominally, I guess I would say, I had 1,000 employees. And I wrote a letter to them all, and I said, I'd like your candid input. How do you think we can improve any of our business processes? Maybe the ones that you're working on are, you know, like what's killing you? I think I even asked them in the memo, just tell me what's killing you, and we'll try and fix it. Guess how many responses I got from the memo? Just throw out a couple numbers. 500, 2,500, one more. Grant, come on, step up.
What was the top number? I forgot. Wait, 10,000 you said? Employees?
I never said that, but I am now. Did I tell you this story one time?
Yes.
Okay, you cheater. You've lost the trust of the whole group. 10,000 opportunities for improvement were provided to us. So then I wrote the people back and I told them we've received 10,000 responses. We can't individually respond, you know, to each of you on your opportunities, 10,000 of them. But I told them that, but I do promise you that the leadership of this company will read every one. And we did. All right, but that's, spend a little time on communication. If there's one thing that makes a good leader, probably, in my impression, number one thing, communication. They can communicate with their people. Okay. Next, leaders demonstrate caring for people, and they build their trust. All right, so now you guys know I'm sitting because I have cancer. I get letters. I haven't worked for my company. I left the company in 2002, so it's been 14 years. I've got 50 letters from people in my company, from people that said, I valued you so much when you worked for us, and I pray for you and your good health and things of that sort. Because at the end of the day, what they knew is I cared about them. I saved their jobs on occasion. You'll get to that maybe when we do the case studies. I saved their jobs, they knew it. I took spears for them, they knew it. I treated them with respect and dignity, they knew it. And so here we are 14 years later, and I'm getting cards in the mail. You know what I'm doing? Remember communication? I call them back and I thank them. Thank you so much for remembering me. Makes me feel good, and I think they deserve thanks. If you do not, there's an expression, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Let me say that one more time. People don't care how much you know. I am so smart. I'm going to tell you how to do it. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I never forgot that expression. And that's not in here, so if you think it's really cool, you should write that one down. But I believed in it for a long, long, long time. Let people know how much you care, because if they know that you've got their backs, you know, remember security, jobs, careers, etc. If your employees know you have their backs, then frankly, they'll have yours. Okay? Next. And I think we move to the next one. We do, enable. Enable is about inspiring people's capabilities to deliver. Remember where we are right now within the 3 E's. We are at Envision. We gave them a vision. We've inspired them. They're ready to go, baby. They're ready to go. But the fact of the matter is, how do they do it? You have to give them kind of the tools and the responsibility to do it. You know, micromanaging doesn't work in corporations. So this one's about giving them the tools to achieve it. And there's 10 of them here that I'm going to go through. Number 1. Thank you so much. I got chemo on the brain. Oh, thank you so much. I have chemo on the brain. Number 1, define and deliver the capability. I know there's deliver in here twice. Blame it on Procter & Gamble. I'd never do anything like this, just to use the same word and the same phrase twice. But I will, because Procter & Gamble, I copied it direct from them. Define and deliver the capability to deliver the strategy. You know where you want to go, and so basically what you have to tell people, here's what we're going to need in the way of tools, in the way of time, in the way of people, in the way of skill development, etc. And that's all defined, and it's the leader's job to do that. Number 2, personally participate in high leverage system improvements. Again, that's part of letting people know how much you care. It's also part of letting people know what the focus is. I had some projects, development projects or otherwise within my company. And a lot of times I used to, before the meeting, I'd call the head, you know, the guy who called the meeting. I'd call him on the phone and I'd say, do you mind if I stop down to your meeting today? Okay, here it is. Now the president of the company's sitting in on their meeting and participating. And not in a way that says, oh, you guys ought to be doing it. I wasn't coaching. I was a member of the team. And frankly, what happens is when you do that, and maybe you do have an acorn every once in a while in terms of a good idea, they'll invite you back. Anytime you want to come to our meeting, you're welcome. That let them know the importance that I placed on the work that they were doing, and they felt good about that. Okay? Next. Did you stiff me the last time and not tell me one more? You've been my man. Hey, get my back. Okay. The next is to identify and eliminate barriers that the leader can resolve. What that means, conflicts. All along the way in the business world, there's going to be conflicts. There's going to be some people, I can't do that. I can't meet. We can't do it. I don't think we should do it that way. I think we should do it this way. And the fact of the matter is, sometimes those things will fester themselves. What does that cost you? Time. What does time cost you? Your jobs. So the fact of the matter is, sometimes the leader must insert him or herself into the situation and say, look, I'm going to have to resolve this. Please trust me on this, but here's the direction I'd like to take. Well, they may not like it, but if they trust you, they'll live with it. If it works out well, they'll think you're a genius. But in any event, what it does is it moves the project, or whatever it is, it moves it along. And you can't get stalled, and so in this place, a leader has to eliminate those types of barriers. A leader proactively learns and encourages others to do the same. It's known, I guess, a bit as a learning organization. An organization that has the same skills and capabilities for 10 years is dead because they haven't kept up. And so the leader says, I'll keep up. I'll be a reader. I'll be a studier. I'll read the Maxwell book. I'll read the Ram Sharon book, Leaders at Every Level. But I'm going to encourage my people to do that as well. And oftentimes it's more than encouragement. It's statements that go on their performance appraisals in terms of expectations. I'd expect you to do this to develop your skill levels over the course of the next year. And so what a leader does is encourages and develops a learning organization. And I'll put quotes around that. Okay, next. A leader expresses and communicates support and confidence in the ability of others. You know, I trust you to be able to get that done. That was really, really good work. I can't wait for you on the next project. Okay, and some people in corporations get identified as doers. They're problem solvers, they're doers. You put so-and-so on a project, they're a bear. It'll get done. Getting that kind of reputation is not a bad thing. I had that reputation. I was on hundreds of projects. The reason why? I got it done. And getting it done is important. And my leaders express confidence in me by always saying, I want to put you on that project. I want to put you on that project. And so you as a leader can do that to your good people as well and to your organization in whole. Next, a leader effectively delegates to others. I talked about the word micromanaging. Micromanaging is death. Having one person decide that they know everything that needs to be done and how and when, it just doesn't work. What you have to do is you have to give your people the rein and the license to be able to act responsibly, to make decisions. You might remember another one of those behaviors was give them some limits and some standards and some roles and responsibilities. But you give that to them. You don't withhold it. When you do, then they can act. If you don't delegate, they can't act. They always wonder, what's he want? What's she want? If only I knew. And you know what that cost you? Time. I said it before. And you know what time costs you? Your job. Excellent. All ties together, doesn't it? Okay, that's why we need good leaders. I used to celebrate successes. I like to celebrate, period. Now, the fact of the matter is, I'd rather celebrate successes. So we used to celebrate successes. If it was a huge success, we might have a huge celebration. Big get-together after work, having dinner, I don't know, whatever it is. We had small rewards. You know, those people, those 10,000 folks that, not folks, those 1,000 folks that had 10,000 OFIs, we told them, depending upon the number of qualified OFIs, like don't stuff the ballot box, but by the number of qualified OFIs, I'll give you things. I'll give you tickets to the movie theater. I'll give you dinner. I'll give you whatever. And we always had rewards for people so they don't know it was just their responsibility. We tried to set those rewards, and the celebration of the success of those was very important to us, and you can't forget that. So leaders must do that. Next, leaders must lead the career development process. Performance appraisal talks about how'd you do last year? Did you have a good year? How'd you perform against your priorities? What your numbers look like? How did you help the organization to be a better, more efficient organization? How many OPs did you have? Etc. That is not a career development process. A career development process is a sit down where you can go to your boss's boss, and say, how do you see my career developing? The most talented, beautiful, so you're awake. The good people leave first. We always used to have this expression, we used to say, oh, all our good people will leave first. Why is that? Because they can. They shoot their resume out, they get a job in a week. Okay, I want to prevent them from doing that. I want an organization that develops, because I know even that great employee is better after 10 years than they are after 5. I don't want to lose them at 10. I don't want to lose them at 15. So you know what I do? I personally lead a career development process that shows them that there's a path ahead for them. Okay? Next. I value the unique differences that individuals bring to the organization. That is not a fancy term for diversity or what do they call it, affirmative action. It basically says that people bring different backgrounds, experiences, educations, etc. And the expression a lot that I've used for folks to prove this is, if over on this side of the room I had a project or a problem to solve, and I went over to the engineering school of mechanical engineering, and I got 5 sophomore mechanical engineers, all male, all white, all Catholics. I'm trying to make them all the same. And I told them, solve that problem. And over here, I had a problem, and I included faculty, alumni, a mechanical engineer, white Catholic, a high school kid that's applied to Lehigh and been accepted, and I have a whole range of experience. I will guarantee you 100% of the time, I will have a more unique and creative solution that comes out of this side. And that's what I'm trying to tell you about business. Do not put all the same people on the same team to come to a decision so quickly and they all nod their head and say, hurrah for Ralph. This is not going to be very creative. A leader stocks teams and encourages his managers to stock teams with people from different departments, different backgrounds and experiences, different age groups, different levels within the organization. And you get better ideas and results, better creativity. Okay, next. And last, thank you. Does that say Taylor? Thank you. Tailor behaviors to specific situations. Practice situational leadership. I'll give you 2 examples here. What it means is, you guys have heard this all the time, good cop, bad cop. A CEO has to know when to be good cop, bad cop. And I'll tell you what, you can't be good cop all the time. I mean, think about those who are involved in athletics. Who's involved in athletics? High school, college? Did your coach ever yell?
Oh, yeah.
And did you know that your coach was right? Sometimes.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Well, I'm not saying that CEOs should yell, but there's a time to be deadly firm and a time to have a big smile on your face, and that's called situational leadership. People will respect you for that. I had a coach here at Lehigh, John Whitehead, and if you go over to the athletic fields, you'll see the John C. Whitehead practice fields. That's where the football team practices. John Whitehead was my specific coach. I was on the offensive line. He was a line coach. He was a tough SOB. People still tell you today, I mean, it's 4 years later, that's the toughest guy I ever met in my whole life. But you know what? It's a man that I respect today like my father. And the reason why is he practiced situational leadership. He knew when to pat me on the back, he knew when to kick me right in the ass. And it helped me. Now, back to New Orleans. In New Orleans, I was walking along and I saw another thing from, there's a quote from General George Patton. Who knows General George Patton? Who knows the movie Patton? Who doesn't know the movie Patton? I would recommend that you go to Netflix and you watch the movie Patton. It was an Academy Award or whatever they call that thing. And he's a general in World War II. And he is one tough SOB. I'm telling you. And he had an expression. And that expression, and the name of the movie, by the way, is Patton. So I don't want you to get confused by some fancy title. Patton. I would definitely recommend that you watch it. Great, great, great movie. General George Patton knew he was a tough SOB. And he had a quote that was on a board, so I took a picture of that too. And it said, there's a short distance between a kick in the pants and a pat on the back. I use them both liberally, I do. And in fact, that's what good executives will do. They play good cop, but they play bad cop. But at the end of the day, they know when to use each. So at the end of the day, I've just gone through 3 E's, envision, energize, and enable. I went through 4 behaviors under both energize and envision, and 10 behaviors. So I've got 18 behaviors. That's it. Brief. Like Procter & Gamble, they say always put it on 1 page. I have on 1 page, and it is on your course site, these 3 E's and these 18 behaviors. And I have looked at those, personally I've looked at those myself for 25 years. And I hope you guys can do the same, although you've got longer.
Not yet. We haven't.
Okay?
He just brought it himself.
Now, let's talk about sustainability. I mean, now I feel kind of like Maxwell. I just had you read the book and go, that was the best damn book I ever read. But how do I make it sustainable, right? Procter & Gamble made it sustainable. They said, how would I know? How would I know if I was improving, sustaining, etc.? And the answer, I would measure. I would do a measurement of how I'm doing against those 18 behaviors. And then what I would do is I would maybe annually, I'd create a development plan to continuously improve, to get better and better and better as a leader. So essentially, what I did is once a year I sent out a survey and I asked my direct reports, how am I doing? I had 18 of those things. Remember, situational leadership. Give me a 4, 3, 2, or a 1. I am always situational. Frequently, seldom, or never. How about trust? Remember, caring and trust. They don't care how much you know, they only know how much you care. Always, frequent, seldom, or never. So on each one of those 18, I could get anywhere from a 1 to a 4. If I was God, I'd have a 72. I'd have a score of 72, 18 times 4. Okay, I can still do the math. On each individual item, frankly, because I had about 7 people that reported to me, I could get as high as a 28. So I guess that means nirvana is 28 times 72. I can't do that math, I apologize. Okay, somewhere around 2,100. All right, but in any event, I used to look, frankly, not at my overall score so much as the individual scores. And if I got, 25 or 26, I'd go, man, I'm really doing well there. If I got 11, I'd say, I'm not doing it. They're not seeing it. And I asked them to be very, very honest about it. But it permitted me to identify my strengths and weaknesses. And then I used to call in some of my confidants. And I'd say, tell me why I got an 11 on trust. They go, well, here's some situations or examples where I guess I would tell you that. And I would ask them to be brutally honest with me. And when I knew the truth, like, damn it, I would come up with a bit of a development plan for myself for the year. Well, then I have to do 5 things differently next year to be able to improve in those particular areas. My question to you is most CEOs would do that. They want to measure and improve, right? My answer is absolutely not. Most CEOs do not want to do anything like that because it reveals flaws in the character. They don't have the guts to accept the good inputs. They don't really value the feedback because they say, I'm the CEO. I mean, I must have been doing things right. Look where I got to. I think it's a bunch of hogwash. They think they're doing all the things right, then why'd they fall out of the Fortune 500 in the last 20 years? Okay? So I believe that any CEO has to strive as hard as they can to continue to improve. Think about the potential impact that you'll have on your organization. Does anybody know in accounting, anybody take any business courses? Nice. There's a rule in accounting called the Rule of 72. Anybody know what the Rule of 72 is?
If you have a percentage, let's say a rate of return, divided by 72, and you get 72 by that rate of return, you get the number of years that
Exactly. If you take the rate of return, you divide it into 72, it'll tell you the number of years it'll take to double. You guys always got to remember that. This is a handy little tool. So for example, if you said, I'm growing my bank account. I'm growing my bank account by 7% a year. How long is it going to take for me to double? 7.2 years. See how fast they did that? How about 15%? 4.9. You know what I mean? It's easy. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to do a real quick one for you. I'm going to use 10%. Let's assume that by my own little personal development plan, I'm improving my leadership capabilities by 10%. That's not too much. It's incremental, okay? If I improve 10% a year, then I'll double my leadership capabilities in 7 years. Rule of 72, right? And by the way, if I work another 7 years, that means 14 years, I'll double that again. And that means I'll be 4x, right? Okay, quite interestingly, at least in the business world, how long did I deploy the 3 E's? Quick guess. Someone's got to guess. It's up there. The number's up there. 14 years. Okay. In 14 years, if you said to me, do you think that at the end of year 14, you were 4 times what you were at ground zero in terms of a leader? And my answer would be yes. I felt that confident. And I think you folks can too. So what I've done here is I've thrown something in terms of sustainability. I can tell you, I know they work. I use them. I got promoted to president within 5 years of starting of the 14 years. I think I got the absolute very, very best out of my team. I'm like a football coach, man. I mean, I don't play a whole lot. When you're president, you don't play a whole lot. People are playing for you down below. I got the very best I could, and the proof in that pudding was a 725 increase in profits over 9 years. Okay? Couple expressions I guess I'd leave at the end, statements. Good leaders get the very best from people. They value their people. They win with people. Leadership is all about people and communication. I used to tell people this all the time in my organization. I can replace everything I have here in this company, these desks, these chairs, that projector, that plant equipment that's out there, those vessels, those trucks, I can replace every one of them within months. But I cannot replace you. And I told them that. The importance that they were to me and to this organization. I'll also leave you with that statement that I've used for 25, 30 years, which is managing is getting people to do what you want, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, versus leadership is getting people to want what you want. I want to be on your team. I want to accomplish what you're looking for to accomplish. If you can get that, you will truly be a good leader and you'll drive results. And I don't care whether or not you're running, maybe I say that. Yes, I do. I don't care whether you're running a company or whether or not you're on a work team here at Lehigh. You can show these behaviors and those skills to be a much, much more effective leader in those situations. So what I say, like Ram Charan, leaders at every level, start now to hone your leadership skills. There are leaders at every level. Be a go-to person. Once you create a string of successes, when people see you got it done, you got it done, you got it done, they'll come to you. And by the way, sometimes we add an expression that says no good deed goes unpunished, because now they're coming to you for everything. So you have to, control that a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, if you're the go-to person, you will rise up in your organization, I guarantee it. Another thing is to surround yourself with the very best, top caliber people. When you have the opportunity, hire the very best. I personally used to tell people that I like to think that I hire people that are smarter than me. Because if they're smarter than me, they're going to bring to me something that I don't have. And I will tell you, my people made me look damn good. So don't be afraid to hire good people. They'll make you look good, especially if they respect you. Okay? And you can't forget this one, measure your leadership like I did to make sure that you create a plan, improve, and have it be sustainable. So with that, that's my gig on leadership. Why don't we, it's 2:30, we have plenty of time. Why don't I ask you at this point if you have any quick questions? If you do, we'll talk about it for a minute as a group. If you don't, we're going to go on to some case studies. Anything you want to ask about, comment on? Yeah, go ahead.
You made a comment about leadership isn't always about being liked, but how do you balance being liked versus being respected? And I guess, how do you, like,
Kind of like
I guess
that.
sometimes it's hard to measure.
Yeah, kind of like that good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
They know. It's like when I asked that question, how many of you were in athletic teams did your coach yell? Yeah. Did you know that they probably should have been yelling? Yeah. Okay, they'll respect you for yelling. To be honest with you, they're not going to respect the lollipop liquor. They want somebody that's tough. They want somebody that knows is going to stand behind them. So you have to balance, like the word you use, you have to balance kind of your good cop, bad cop, maybe more good cop. But when it's time to be bad cop, you got to be bad cop. You got to go, no. You know what I mean? If you don't, if it's always just like, yeah, they won't respect you. You're not tough enough. You got to be tough to win in business. Okay? Dr. Zimmers.
Would you agree, Dad, because you tell me this sometimes, that trust factors into that too? If you're going to, if the person trusts the leader, then they're a lot more likely to take.
I would say yes, but if you gave me any one of those 18 behaviors as proof of the good cop, bad cop, do you create possibilities? Do you have a sense of urgency? Have you created good standards in this organization? Do you have trust? It's all of those things together give you the right to be a strong and or tough leader when you need to be. Because they see all those other traits and behaviors. You don't practice them, it's going to be hard. They won't like you.
Good. Thank you.
But I mean, I had the toughest football coach that I ever knew, and I'm sitting here today telling him this is a man I respect like my father. He earned that. He didn't earn it from the times he was kicking me in the butt, but he earned it from the other side, so to how much I learned. And by the way, our team won. Remember I said it's about winning? Our team won. Go look in the record books, 1973 Lambert Cup, Lehigh University. No, we won. And we knew one of the reasons why we won is because our coaches were behind us. So it's all kind of an integrated little pot. And what I want you to do is I want you to pull out that one pager of those 18 behaviors and say, this is the Holy Grail. This is it. Practice it, try it, measure it, and improve. And you will succeed either in your teams here at Lehigh, you certainly will succeed at work. And you will certainly differentiate yourself from others, because other people don't act this way. I didn't act this way when I was 30 years old. I only acted that way starting at 35. I started this at 35 years old. Hell, to you guys, it's as old as your grandparents. That's a joke. But the fact of the matter is, if you start this stuff today, remember I said start now, if you start now, it's going to be like old hat, and you'll differentiate yourself in the workplace, I guarantee you. Okay? So, role plays. I have two. So let's say situation one. Let me I have it in words here on the board, but not yet, but I'm going to kind of give you the background, what the issue was, and I was the leader. What did I do? And don't try to guess what I did. What would you do? Maybe is a better thing. Now, it might be different than what I did, and I may end up saying to you, wow, That is unbelievable that you came up with that. So it doesn't have to be the same as mine. So here it is. There was a business that I had been responsible for at one time. It was about $60 million internal in our overall business. And very strong and profitable business. Those chemicals were largely sold through a network of national regional distributors. I'll define distributors as like hardware store. They have everything. Nuts and bolts, saws and hammers and sanders and da-da-da-da-da. Well, these distributors, I was in the laboratory market, they were selling chemicals and beakers and Bunsen burners and Mettler balances and all that stuff that you guys, you're mostly engineers, is that true? You took chemistry like me? All that stuff in the lab, tubing, everything, it's all sold through a distributor. They have it all. Makes ordering easier. I can order tubing, chemicals, a Mettler balance, a pipette strips, you know, the whole thing. Okay, so what that means though is that we didn't necessarily control 100%. You know, there's a middleman. Sorry about that. We'll take care of that. Unless, of course, it's my wife. And then we'll still take care of it. Okay. There's a middleman. And so what happens is the middleman now has a relationship with the customer. I hate that. I'd rather have the direct relationship. I know them, they know me, they negotiate with us, but they're distributors, so they have a little bit of control. Well, early, this was January of 1986. Anybody know bouncing around a little bit, give me that opportunity. Anybody know the significance of January 1986? Challenger. I just saw something on TV the other day about its anniversary. Yeah, obviously, 30 years ago, Challenger blew up. So here we are in the morning going, son of a bitch, we just, the distributor, you can see here, we got dropped by 2 distributors, and we're sitting there going, gee, and all of a sudden, we see a spaceship blows up with people, and we're like, oh my God. So it taught us a lesson, frankly, and I guess the reason why I mentioned it to you. It taught us a lesson because we said, you know, we're sitting here thinking that the worst thing in the world is the fact that we lost 2 stinking distributors for $6 million and $10 million, and it may cost us our company and our jobs, but it's not. And so it's probably a little bit of a lesson that, you know, you, your health, your family, your balance, and things of that sort are important too, because we're right in the middle of a strenuous meeting trying to figure out what to do here, and the Challenger blows up. So about 9:30 in the morning. You'll remember those events a lot. So just remember that there's a balance too with regards to life and work and things of that sort. But in any event, we got our wits about us and said we got $16 million of business that we sell through these 2 distributors that dropped us. And I don't want to get into the why they dropped us. It was kind of a strategic and competitive and everything else. But the fact of the matter is, they said, I'm not going to sell your chemicals anymore. I'm going to sell somebody else's chemicals. That's like somebody saying, like, Stanley Tools, I'm not going to sell Stanley Tools anymore. I'm only going to sell Skill. Well, we're Stanley. We're going, wait a minute. We're selling $16 million through you, and we're not going to let that go away. So, now we're into the traditional struggle. Who controls the customer? The brand, us as a manufacturer, or the distributor? Are they going to want Stanley Tools more than they want Ace Hardware? Do you get the significance now? Who's going to win? Ace? If Ace converts the $16 million of Stanley Tools over to Skill, we're done. We're out $16 million bucks. But if we can determine a way to get the $16 million through a whole bunch of other distributors, because there's hundreds of distributors. There's not Ace, there's True Value. We'll go to True Value. Okay? That was the challenge, but that just doesn't happen. I mean, you got a consumer out there that's used to buying from the distributor. They may like your brand. So, I was the head of the business. I was the leader. I was the guy who was challenged with, don't lose the 16 million. That was the vision, simply. Okay? How would I lead my people? How would I create opportunity from this adversity? I didn't want this to happen. I like business as usual. Okay? This is a profitable product line, very profitable, highest profitable line in the company. If we failed, we'd probably lose the company. That's on my shoulders. So the question is, what would you guys do? I'd like to break up into, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Dad, I think we got our groups already, if that's okay.
Okay, well, you know what? You have your groups already. Why don't you break up into groups? I'm going to give you about 15 minutes to say, remember, there's two things here. Listen to me very closely. There's a people side. People are scared, okay? We just lost $16 million worth of business. I mean, I am scared. And number two, there's a strategic portion. What would you do to earn it back? What would you do to have them move from ACE to true value and stay with Stanley? So there's a strategic side and there's a real strong people side. And I'd like to hear from you on both. Because I had to address both. I had to save my people and I had to save the volume. So you guys can break up and do your thing. I will walk around and I am open to giving hints if you ask me a question. Or you may just ask me a question for clarification's sake, but I'll walk around and I'll answer questions. I'm not going to leave you in the dark. It's time. Why don't we do this since I'm pointing in this direction? Why don't I ask you guys for a spokesperson and a quick synopsis?
Okay. So, it'll be somewhat brief. So what we're doing is, we first note that the people in our company, the employees, have a relationship with the distributor. They have a relationship with, the customer has a relationship with the distributor. So the first thing to do is go to the distributor and make sure that this isn't an issue that was caused by us, and if there's a way to get to the customer through a different distributor. But short term, we need to stabilize the situation. So what that involves is having open communication with our employees to make sure that they know that their involvement in this process is just as important as us in leadership. If they are scared, and this is like, I'm going to lose my job, that affects their relationship with not only that distributor, but other distributors. So your whole company could feel the decline, not just from this problem, but a ripple effect. We thought about beginning to find alternative distributors for long-term, so start on a long-term plan. Go ahead and delegate the distributors and the things that your company has to do on a daily basis so that you can focus on this problem. Focus on the possibilities, not just the limitation, but the problem. So the problem can be very big, but as a leader, you have to make sure that you don't get swamped by it and see that your people are not swamped by this problem. Be open and honest, inform them that we need to ensure that nothing else is dropped. And we thought about going to the customer and meeting them like halfway, say, hey, we'll give you a cut on our prices if you'll come through a distributor you have or buy direct from us. So there's a lot of short-term things that we need to address by stability, and then having a long-term plan and communicating that very openly with your employees.
Okay, you did address both, and you're the guinea pig because you're first. I'll just give you two reactions that I have. Number one, I couldn't care two beans about those two distributors that dropped us, and I feel no responsibility to go back and tell them that, oh, you know, everything's okay, don't worry about it, we're still friends. We're not. And number two, I like the fact that you addressed, well, I have to go to the customer and provide the customer some type of incentive or motivation to buy from me, so what I'll do is I'll cut price. No, no, no. You cut prices, you cut profit. So there's other value that you might be able to bring other than price.
Excuse me, doesn't the distributor have an upcharge So the customer is actually paying something?
We have, well, it's
So
a-
even if we cut prices,
let's put it this
not
way.
to the cut to the customer, but not necessarily to the distributor, because we're selling to the distributor.
Cut price to the customer? We don't
Also-
make prices with the customer, the distributor does.
Okay.
So if I cut prices to the distributor, it's the same thing that I did to lose the business in the first place. And I can't cut prices to the customer because the customer has contracts with the distributor. But just overall, I say generally, get yourself out of this situation. The last thing you want to do in the business world is cut price. The last thing you want to do. Now, there's technologies out there like fast, LCD TVs and everything. Like you go, whoa, you're so smart. Look at LCD TVs. The one that cost $2,000 last year cost $600 today. That may be true, but technology and volume are driving those price cuts and competition. So, when they were making $3,000 a month, they had to sell them for $2,000. When they're making $100,000 a month, there's economies of scale. They're developing new cost structures. So I don't want to get into that, but with a mature business, cutting price is like digging your own grave. Okay, hi. Are you guys, who's the group? Okay.
We had decided that to initially first just consult with other members within your company to make, I guess, the situation clear to all levels within your company. I guess, especially those who may be directly affected by this.
Which is everybody.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll give you a secret. We had open communication with everybody in the company. Here's what happened and why, and here's what we're going to do about it. Now you're going to tell me what we said and what we're going to do about it.
All right. Yeah. So I guess we also had the idea to reach out to the final clients and to figure out a way to bypass the distributor. But I guess
You could do that. You could go out and say, why don't you buy from me directly?
yeah.
But largely they don't want to. And the reason why is because can you imagine them in a hardware situation? I buy my nails and screws and shovels and lawnmowers and da-da-da-da from that guy, but I buy my chemicals separately. I had a separate purchase order for my chemicals. A little inefficient. So,
I was just going to say figure out what would be needed. So I guess that's and then I guess just
what does that mean? Figure out what would be needed.
What would be needed to do the translation? So I guess the logistics to translation. But
Okay, so you're suggesting that, well, part of the strategy will be to go direct to certain customers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
All right.
thank you.
And by the way, it was, but that was a minor portion.
And I guess we also decided to market. I guess start a marketing campaign against, or not against, but just to promote this particular product.
Beautiful thing. We spent millions on marketing campaign,
Yeah.
but that's only a mindset.
Right.
But
For
actually, I will tell you this. We had a 2-page ad in journals, scientific journals, that said the next time they tell you it's as good as J.T. Baker, ask them a few pointed questions. And then underneath we had the Baker's dozen, 13 questions with check marks. Did they do this? Did they do this? Did they do that? 13 questions. It's a beautiful thing. Do you have anything else?
no, not much besides just keeping.
Okay. Yours was a good answer. The only thing you're missing is why should they go to the other distributor? They said price, or excuse me, the other distributor. They said price. I said, no. I'm still looking for reasons on why they should go to the other distributor. Okay, is this a group of 3?
Yeah, so this group.
Didn't you guys just do your?
No, we're not in the same group as them.
Oh, geez. Okay, let's do yours. Sorry.
She's facing that way, I'm facing this
Sorry.
way.
So we had like similar.
Oh, you're a group of 3.
Yeah.
Well, that was an optical illusion that you threw in front of me.
We said like very similar things regarding keeping the people informed.
Excellent.
Asking for advice from people.
Oh, by the way, informed means you communicate to them what happened and why and what we're going to do about it. But informed, that's why I like your word, means regular communication. Here's how it's going. That saves them. That saves them. Because if you only do one communication, here's what we're going to do and why, they go, that's much BS. But if you follow it up, it sticks.
And we use the word updated, so like
Nice.
throughout the whole
Okay.
process.
Then maybe ask for advice from the service lines that work most closely with distributions, say like how they think they should handle it. And then from there, with strategy, look into new distributors and see if there's any way that we can still maybe reach those same clients and maybe like go after a new market.
Okay, new distributors is good, we did that.
Yeah.
And we advertised heavily.
So ours is very similar to your proposal.
Okay. Hi.
We'll come up with like similar ideas. We want to go to find new distributors
Correct.
because we can.
Could you speak just a little bit louder? So everybody can just.
Yes, they got to hear you.
Okay, like because since the company is the first rated brand and have the $60 million business, so although we lost like the first and the major distributors now, but if we find new distributor, we can talk to them because they can be our major distributor. So we can like talk about the future development because they can become like develop better and have $60 million career, like something like this, to convince them join the network. So this is hard.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is new distributors and business to other current distributors. Okay. Hi, is this one group?
Yeah.
Okay. They gave me a head fake look at this one.
Alright, well, we thought we might be able to incentivize newer distributors to come and sell our things, or maybe start with a smaller distributor and help them grow.
How are you going to incentivize them? Just as an example.
Yeah, well, the price cuts thing is already discussed.
So you're not allowed to say that
Yeah,
anymore, you know that.
so I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll get to it then. All right, keep going, sorry.
Okay.
I thought I might be able to draw it out of you, but that didn't work. Go ahead.
Okay, so maybe we could buy out a distributor, and we said we might sell directly to a customer, but that was already brought up, and I guess you can't really do that.
By the way, I'll just comment, that's a nice idea, buy out your distributor, because then you can control your distribution, but it's not our skill set. We make chemicals, man. We got pots and kettles and stuff. We make chemicals. Distributors are in the logistics business, and so we were concerned, it's not our thing, we'll screw it all up and then we'll lose the business anyway. So just give you a little heads up there.
Alright, well, those are our ideas, and when it comes to dealing with your people, we just said, make sure you communicate openly and welcome their ideas if they have any, and just make sure they know what's going on, and kind of make sure you stay calm and collected, and you can't really panic, so, because if they see that, then they will panic as well.
Correct. All right? We go assume the position. You guys, largely you touched on the strategies. You got to talk with your employees in a very direct, straightforward way. You have to figure out a strategy, which obviously would include minimal opportunities to go direct, which were answered, offered up. Number two, transferring the business from from the distributors who dropped it to current distributors that you have, about 100 distributors. See if you can't move that over to them, and or open up new distributors. People that aren't distributing your chemicals are now saying, my God, I got $16 million that's up for grabs, why don't I grab a piece of it? And I didn't hear, I kind of heard that, but I just want to kind of bifurcate that a little bit, or trifurcate, I guess I should say that. Go direct, maybe to very, very large customers. Try to divert current customers to your current distributors, a new current distributor, and open up new distributor outlets. So the distribution thing, I think you guys pretty much got. With regards to employees, yes, of course we talked to our employees. We told them the truth. we gave them confidence. Like we believe we're the #1 brand. And what we're saying is, we're the #1 brand. We're Intel. People don't take Intel, okay? You know, you're going to convert from Intel to Advanced Micro Devices. What is that, a joke? I have a computer with Advanced Micro Devices, so I'm just embellishing something here. But the fact of the matter is, we had the #1 brand, and we said, let's use that. So we told our people, we have the #1 brand, and we will not lose this battle. We will not lose. Okay. Where you guys kind of missed the boat, even generically, was how do you get them to move? You need to find, as they say over in a business school, you guys ought to get down there sometime, it's a fun place. As I say in a business school, you need to find a hook. What's the hook? Okay? You'd see that all the time. I mean, people are throwing hooks at you all the time, particularly from cell phone, guys. If you go with us right now, we'll give you unlimited storage. What the hell does it cost them to give you unlimited storage? Nothing. How much value is there to you? A ton. Especially when you pay, not storage, excuse me, well, not data transfer. Okay, so what we did is we sat and we figured out, we sat there and said, what do they want? They want our brand, which is a good brand. We may be able to just say, oh, we're the best brand, so you should buy from us. But we didn't buy that. We said, that'll get us some business, but it's not going to make a huge change. Now, I didn't expect you guys to know this, but what we came across was that at the time, there was a huge regulatory challenge they had with regards to safety. And anybody who is around any kind of chemicals, whether they be fertilizers or anything right now, they have what are called material safety data sheets. Material safety data sheets, guess when they came around? Oh, about 1986. So what we told them was, if you buy from us, we will provide you with all the material safety data sheets in a packet for all the chemicals that you need, so you can have a catalog on site for your employees, and we will provide you with a training program for safety packaged. So all we have to do is create a package program, and if they commit to buy 80% or more from us of their chemical requirements, we send them the material safety data sheets on request, and we send them the training package. Oh boy, oh boy. Now what these guys are saying in these companies is, I've been buying Baker all along, I love Baker. Baker's the best chemical out there, and they're going to resolve a problem that I have in time and money grabbing all these material safety data sheets and developing a program. And we even had a follow-up newsletter on this thing, you're part of the program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We had $16 million worth of business at risk. 2 years later, and we have signed commitments. This wasn't just, wouldn't you please? This is a signed commitment that I'll buy 80% of my chemicals through specified you for 80% of my chemicals. We had $16 million at risk through the distributors that dropped us, and 2 years later we had signed letters of commitments for $21 million. Beautiful thing. Okay. So, up here, I thought it would be easier for me just to ramble a little bit on what we did. But don't go after price unless it's the only thing you have. And if you were a true commodity where it just doesn't matter, all brands are interchangeable, then maybe you have to dig into price. Not my brand. I've got a 90-year-old or a 100-year-old brand that's been voted tops for 30 years in a row. I'm not cutting the price. We didn't cut one price. Just watch price, because price is 100% profit dollars. Cut your price by $5, you just lost $5. It's not a margin, it's $5. I never forgot that. Okay, so here's what I said. This we assembled the right team. I heard someone say that. You're right, you got to get the right team, diverse team. Remember, I got people from marketing, from sales, from manufacturing, from regulatory. Okay, set a hard and fast mission. We have not and will not lose business. Provide them hope. Talk to that. Provide solutions to customers in return. It says here 75. One of them's true. I don't remember which. A long time ago. Added new distributors. We talked about that. Customers would now have to buy from our distributors, whether or not they're current ongoing distributors or new distributors. And let's not forget about this. Hard work. I felt personally challenged by this, as did our team. I worked as leader of this team. I worked 7 months, 7 days a week. And here I am in 2016 telling you we've succeeded. One of the more prouder moments of my career. But I worked harder than my competition. I said, my competition's not going to outwork me. But I worked seven months, 7 days a week. Kept the mission alive. Our competitors were two firms called Mulholland and Merck, both starting with an M. We had signs, banners all over campus, posters on walls, and everybody gained like 30 pounds and got diabetes because we had M&Ms everywhere in the company. Wherever you went, there was big bowls of M&Ms, and it reminded people Merck and Mallinckrodt is our enemy. Merck and Mallinckrodt is our enemy. So everybody walked by the M&M bowl, they grabbed the, but it was a constant reminder. Okay? And at the end of the day, our competition, the dealers that dropped us, the dealers that brought us on, and our current dealers were amazed at the results. And our current distributors and new distributors, they picked up $20 million in new volume, so they couldn't have been happier. So, big win. Now, I have a second. Okay, let me do this. I'm not going to go through here. Jump on leadership and crisis opportunities. Remember I told you crisis provides opportunities for leadership? Partly my being president of the company was because of this. And this was done 6 years before I became president, but it was a big feather in the cap. It was a big, tall feather. He saved the company. And I believe that he saved the thing. I'm an offensive lineman. We saved because we had a team, we had our employees, but in any event, it was big. Okay, there's a situation number 2. We have a time requirement, which I was unaware of, but I want to walk you through, at least me. You won't have to do it, so you're off the hook. I want to walk you through a second one because I think this is huge, and it doesn't have to do with strategy. It has to do with all decisions about what needs to be communicated. And here it is. We were owned, this is now years later, we were owned by, 1997. We were owned by, guess what happened in November 97? Nothing. Okay. We were owned by a diversified $4 billion company. Our parent company announced their plans to focus exclusively on healthcare and medical, not chemicals. They said you will be sold. My communication to the company was, not a big deal, been there, done that. I mentioned Procter & Gamble. We were sold from Procter & Gamble to another company, so we did it very successfully. And kind of my mantra with regards to our employees was, been there, done that. We got the template, we'll do it again. So we teamed with JP Morgan. You guys probably know JP Morgan. Teamed with JP Morgan Investment Bankers. I need to correct that. And we followed the same process we did in 1994. What I told our employees is, look, I can take you to a better place than where we are today. If our company's not going to focus on, our parent company's not going to focus on chemicals, then the truth of the matter is, we need to be with somebody that is. So I said, we can't do that under the parent company, so let's move on to somebody else. You can help to do that. We spent 8 months, we did an offering memorandum, data rooms, management presentations. We received contract from a private equity firm in Chicago to sell the company to them for $330 million. By the way, the company was sold 3 years prior for $110 million. That shows you the impact. Remember that 750% increase in profits. So the last step was receive the board approval of the parent company. The board, we're going to sell our company name at that time, Mallinckrodt Banker. By the way, we teamed up, by the way, with one Mallinckrodt, our competitor, because they said, well, we can't win, so we might as well join them. So they bought us. So get board approval. What happened at the board? They changed their mind. So after working for 8 months, and after me telling our employees we're going to a better place, and after me telling our distributors we're going to be moving ownership, and after me telling our end users, our customers, we're going to be changing ownership, they said that they're not going to do it. So I had some problems. I told them I could take them to a better place. Now I'm telling them I'm going to stay where I am. Hey, wait a minute. I already told them staying where we are isn't good because they're not focusing on chemicals. Why would they focus on chemicals now? Just because they decided not to sell us. Who would leave the company? Would we ultimately, be sold anyway? If true, then when was employee risk of retention? I am in deep trouble because I have to go tell my employees more or less, so sorry. I'm really sorry, but we're not going to be sold, but it'll be all right. And they'll go, corporate speak, corporate speak, corporate speak. I'm dead. I'm a dead man. But I did have one thing on my side. The weekend. This was on a Friday, I'm panicking. I had Saturday and Sunday to figure it out. So, I was going to show you a movie. This is another one that if I were you guys, I'd watch. 1976. There's 5 major Academy Awards. Actor, actress, movie, supporting actor, and supporting actress. It won 4 of the 5. So Netflix this guy and watch it. And I was going to show it to you. There's the demented announcer. So what would you do? Okay, here's what I did. Well, the question was, who would you need to talk to? In what order? What would you say? And there was a thing, I'm mad as hell, which comes from the movie. The fact of the matter is, I knew the first person I had to talk to was the chairman of the board of the company. And I had to tell him, there's trouble here in River City. And he said to me, that's why we have such confidence in you as the CEO. And you know what I said to him? I'm the problem. Because I don't know what to tell my people. And you don't give me anything to tell my people, we got trouble. Okay, so here's what happened. Talk to the chairman first. Needed to take a message back to the people. Sorry about that, people. It wasn't BS. You can imagine, I mean, if I sat out there, hell, what was I talking at this point? Probably 10 years of that trust factor, right? And I come out and go, don't worry about it, we'll be okay, everything will be okay. Not one person would believe it. I wouldn't believe it, okay? It sounds like a political thing, you know what I mean? So, we discussed the huge people risks, including me, and we brokered a deal where he committed to be a good parent and continue to invest in us. And we agreed that we would test and measure that in 1 year. So now I had something to say. And so what I did is I went back to him and said, I went back to the people. That's why I was going to show you the movie, because the guy, there's a famous section in there where people are screaming out the window, I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore. My focus with the people in my company was, I am mad as hell, not don't worry about it. I told them I am livid about this situation, but it's not my call, but I am livid. But I've talked to the chairman and I told him I'm livid, and I told him I don't know what he's going to do about it. And what he asked me was if he could prove that he would be a good owner. And how do you prove you're a good owner? You give people capital to invest, okay, in equipment and plant and people to succeed. And so I told my company he has committed to give us that, and he has committed that 1 year from now he and I are going to have a discussion. And if he has, everything's okay. If he has not, all bets are off. Okay? And by the way, all bets are off. I told him I'd lead a management group out of the company if they couldn't keep their promise. What happened was they kept their promise. Told them that the chairman had asked him to trust. Oh, yeah, I did this too. It's like, would you meet me halfway? I said, he asked me whether or not I would accept that. And as mad as I am, I told him I would. And I have to ask you folks, would you? Can I see a show of hands of those that would accept his offer for, give him 1 year to prove to us? And everyone raised their hand. And I went, I'm happy about that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go on business as usual. Nothing's going to happen. A year from now, we're going to know the truth. Actually, we'll know beforehand. But I trust him. I told him, I trust him and I think he'll do it. He did do it. We lost one person who said, no, I don't want to stick around anymore. And so the fact of the matter is, that was, I think, what else do I have up here? Would you join? Yes. Issue dropped, end of discussion, Chairman. Company continued to achieve record profits and sales through 2001, sold to Tyco, Dan moved to Palm Beach, Florida. That's the corporate way. All right, situational leadership. I didn't play CEO, don't worry people, you'll be okay. I played one of them. I am mad as hell, but I can't do anything about it. Now our chairman gave me an option, and I accepted it. I told him I accepted. Would you? I didn't tell them what to do. I asked them to raise their hands. That's situational leadership, okay? I gained enrollment from the people. The people said, I'm with you. Be honest in your communication. I was honest, and demonstrate caring. You know, I told them I cared about the company and things. Remember I told you 99% I was honest and 1% I wasn't? The 1% of honesty that I won't call it honesty. 1% I wasn't terribly open with was at the time then there was a plan to close and bulldoze our largest plant. They just forgot to tell me that. So I had to protect that from our employees, but I had to throw myself on the sword. That plant still operates today. Okay? So, you learned a little bit about me. We talked a little bit about leadership. We talked about the behaviors. Pull those out of the course site. Talked about some real life experiences. You guys did a nice job on the first one with regards to the people and the strategy. The second one, because of the time I had to give to you, but you could see the terrible challenge I faced, and hopefully you can kind of recognize the way I turned things around to make it in my favor. But I could not have done it without this corporate speak, like, don't worry, people. Wouldn't have worked at all. And I would have destroyed 10 years of trust building. And so we said discussion. I'd be happy to stay for, I will stay for discussion. I enjoyed your participation and being here today very much, and thank you for your attention. Happy